So I took the pills, thought I was ushering in heaven, woke up, wasn't in heaven, was super sick, had the bread and water experience, then had the sacramental experience of, the anointment and baptism and different tests and things, and then they were gone. But I still didn't know what the hell what was that about? What I didn't understand the death part. I didn't understand the pills. I didn't understand why they would trick me like that. Why I would take those pills and then not be in heaven. Okay? Um and they were out of communication with me then until 2011. Same time of year. Um Came back in contact with me and had said now was the time to prove my immortality. And this was just brief and it was loud and bold. And they said, now's the time to prove your immortality. And this is going to sound crazy, guys, but I know this was God. I know this was God's will. I know this was God's work. I was such a sane person and smart, intelligent person prior to this that I just know that the whatever I experienced was greater than I am. Like, it was out of this world. And there was a period of time where I questioned, like, because I had looked into some of the MK Ultra stuff, and I'm like, it's either God or the fucking government. I don't know. Like, but then I'd always reflect back to the butterflies and the four leaf clover and the other, like, it seemed like other people around me, like, somehow I was being communicated with through other people's consciousness. Like, I could be I could be in a room with a friend and we'd be mid conversation and it's like they all of a sudden would like check out and something else checked in and gave me a bit of information that I needed that had everything to do with, this path that I was on, even though this friend might not have been. And, they'd give me this brief message. One of them, one time, like my friend checked out and then something else checked in and it said nanoparticles. Like I had no idea about, but I'll get little hints and stuff like that here and there. And then I'll go look it up and it's all relevant somehow. So, and then when they check back in, they don't even realize that had happened. They don't recall saying that. They're not fucking around with me. Like, it was legit happening. And that happened to a few different people that were around me at this time. It was so weird. Like, it took me a while just, to convince myself that this wasn't some kind of government thing, because that's how big these synchronicities were, like, all around me. And it was just hard to believe that this was happening to me. If this was God, like, how I just couldn't fathom the fact that I was like a chosen one of some kind. So, so the sacrifice, well, so all of a sudden, middle of May, I get this loud voice. It's time to prove your immortality to the world. Okay. And I just almost like on autopilot, like I grabbed a steak knife off the counter and I stabbed myself in the chest. I drove that knife in all the way. It was almost like I wasn't even in control of myself entirely when I did that. But I didn't feel it. I pulled the knife right back out. It was super early in the morning. And I spent the entire day, like I had gone for walks. I put on a shirt. Nobody knew what I had done. It was hot at that time. It was really hot outdoors. I'd walked up to the gas station and back. I had been smoking cigarettes. I had been smoking bowls. I went to the swimming pool for a full, like, 5 hours from 1 to 5 o'clock. Went to a swim session. But I didn't swim. I was just there to watch the kids swim and bask in the glory in the sun. And I felt like it was the end scene of Fight Club. Like, he gets, the dude gets shot in the neck and, like, but he's still talking. It's like it didn't even affect him. And it just so happens that the world is crumbling around them in that particular scene. But that's how I felt. Like, at some point, I was starting to feel a little woozy. I went to my parents' house and told them I wasn't feeling well. And I proceeded, I said, I really think I need a nap. I need to lay down. They said they're going to heal me now. So I went and took a nap. This was midday. Like I said, like I had done this at, I know, probably 7 a.m. or so in the morning, sometimes 7 to 9 a.m. And took a nap in the middle, did the pool, did all that, took a nap in the middle afternoon, said, I just knew I was compelled to say, they're going to heal me now. I need to take a nap. I go take a nap. I don't know how long I slept, at least an hour or so. Got back up, ate a full plate of dinner. I hadn't, revealed to my parents what I had done, and I wasn't bleeding out at all the entire time. Still was smoking my cigarettes. And then I did end up telling them at some point because I didn't know what to do now. Like, okay, well, I'm not dead. And I don't, what, what am I supposed to do? So I told my parents, and they took me to the hospital. I went to the hospital. They said I had a collapsed lung, and I had to get a chest tube. But that was that. But I keep getting confirmations that I am, in fact, I am immortal, although I'm not willing to put that to the test again. But when this happened, it was for the greater good. This all had to do with ushering in heaven. And I don't know, in hindsight, I'm not so sure now that when I did take those pills that I didn't, my expectations were maybe different than what they were trying to convey to me, because I was expecting to wake up in this other world. But if we're creating it here on earth, or changing this world into the fifth dimensional heaven, then perhaps in some way I did begin that, I did break that barrier or threshold. I opened that gate, because they did say it was this Christ consciousness that's sweeping over the planet is somehow connected to my consciousness as well, or my heart, or something to that effect. And that's kind of what I'm still trying to figure out. And like I said, that was in 2011. And after I was hospitalized, they were out of contact again. But they did lead me to think that something was going to happen that July 4th. That there would be mass sightings or something like that. Or they were going to begin landing. That didn't happen either. So I have given up on dates. They've told me since that they planned on doing the evacuation in 2012. But there weren't enough of us awake yet. So I had been doing lots of research ever since 2011. I did a bunch of research, been connecting a lot of dots, been learning more about this supposed king and queen couple, this predicted dawning of the golden age, and like Aphrodite, or more like goddess of love type things. And it's scary accurate to like what they told me, or who my soul supposedly is. And but they're not giving me as much information as I want either. They are kind of being stingy, and they hadn't been in full contact with me like they had been in 2010 or 2011, up until just recently. Because here we are, it's May again. But I know there's been some Mays that have come and gone since then, and I really haven't heard anything. I just assumed that when the shit was going to hit the fan, they would be in contact with me again, But nothing. And I kind of laid dormant. Even at a point, I kind of stopped research. I felt like I almost researched everything I possibly could. I just had obtained so much information, and I just still wasn't sure, like, where this was going. Like, was it all in vain? Like, what? I still couldn't understand what was going on with me, why that happened, and I'm still, like, working jobs. I'm still, like, functioning in my daily life, taking kids to school and stuff. I mean, I just didn't understand what that was and what the purpose was and why I had made, what was the sacrifice for? Because it didn't seem like anything was happening. But gradually, I did start to notice that more and more people were waking up. And I was like, it does look like something's going on. Like I would tell my friend, I definitely think what I experienced is real because I see it, because I had been paying attention to like solar flare information and earthquake information and a lot of those kinds of YouTube videos and stuff because they had told me about, this possible volcano and flooding happening, and it would be as a result from solar flares and yada yada. But I also had a lot of subs from my research from back in the day, and I was just noticing like on my YouTube page, like all these there's so many more people that seem to be awake now than there was back in 2010 and 2011, and I was like, so maybe there really is something to all this after all, which was making I'm like, oh, thank God, like, whew, like, so, I just kind of sat back, kept my eye on things, over the years, but I did get consumed with, 3D reality and juggling full time, being a single mom, and I just kind of had to put it on the shelf for a while, and that's what I had done for a couple of years, and it kind of laid dormant until I saw Allison Coe's video about this event, and I was like, and it just it came to me. Like I don't even know where I found her post initially, but I was like, event, and it said QHHT, and I'm like, because I was interested in those things with Dolores Cannon, and so I tuned in, and it sounded like this event that they were talking about was what was kind of being it was being conveyed to me by these angels, and now all these other people are expecting this to happen, this 5D realities, this heaven on earth, this fifth dimension, like everything the angels had told me about back in 2010. And it just so happens that throughout the duration of my initial contact, they were asking me to envision or, create my idea or concept of heaven, how I would want it to be, how I think we could best get along and feel comfortable in our own skin. And they wanted me to visualize like new creatures, but they also told me that there is a purple crystal at the center of all this that kind of like it gives us energy and we give it. It's like an energy exchange. This huge crystal provides us free energy, but we also provide it energy. That was one of the few details they gave me as to what already exists there, but they wanted me to feel like we were creating it together or manifesting it, and that somehow, I kept throughout the drive, like, my cup runneth over, as in my heart, because I just felt so much love inside of me, and I just wanted to spill it out onto the world at that time. And I envisioned myself doing that, like pouring this golden blanket of love just all over the planet. And this whole time they were convincing me that magic was real, that it's like white magic, and that I am really making these things happen. And so that's what I've been observing. And then I started to see everybody's waking up. So this Christ consciousness is sweeping over the planet from my observation. And we are waking up. And the earth is starting to make some changes now. And, Allison came out with that video, and other people are having these experiences. And soon after she did come out with that video, and then that's how I ended up finding Michelle and Josie and Shane. And I could see that we were all coming together, like all of God's people were coming together, and it was beautiful. It's all love and light, positivity, nothing to be scared of. It can't be something negative. It can't be demonic. It's not like, it's beautiful. It's been a struggle because I have, I've been using other people's videos as guinea pigs over the years, saying, well, they're bold enough to come out with their crazy experience, so let's see what their reception is like, from the commentators and whatever. And I would just see so many like uptight religious pricks, like you're working with the demons or aliens or, and it's been really upsetting to witness. And then it's also deterred me from coming out with my own experience because I didn't want to have to deal with any negative feedback. But I also didn't expect to be this detailed. I didn't want to come out with any of the personal stuff because it does seem so significant, and I didn't want to be persecuted. I don't want to be a false prophet. I really feel like my sacrifice was for a reason, and it wasn't until recently that I did find this blood over intent information, which, it's just so surreal lately. And then so soon after Allison's videos, all these energies and connecting with Michelle and Shane, all these energies have been coming in, and I've been feeling it physically and internally. And I think that's what is going on now, is kind of like the testing period, the self-judgment period, because I went through all of that back in 2010, and they had told me then that not the sacrifice part, but the judgment everybody was going to experience that at some time in the near future. All your symptoms, and it sounds very similar to what I did experience. And they warned me then that, so these energies coming in the planet, that's part of the effect it'll have on you, okay? And everybody's going to experience it, but if there's going to be a lot of people that will deny their maker, so to speak. Like, a lot of people are not ready or prepared for this at all, and they are going to need us to help them deal with, a lot of people are going to think they're going crazy. They're going to think that they're schizophrenic. They're not going to embrace this as a spiritual experience, which it is. It's just, science has been left out of spirituality. Our technology has far surpassed our spirituality. Like, things are so crazy down here. It's like, we had to intervene, and the nuclear weapons, and there's just multiple reasons why this has to happen right now. And I know this past week for me has been super intense. Lots of highs and lows, and I'm still, like I said, I'm still purging some stuff. So, but I did have an experience over the weekend where I was super in the now, okay? And interpreting, I'd watch a YouTube video of a yogi or whatever, and I would just I interpret the video as though it's meant just for me in this moment, nobody else. Although, we all experience that in our own time, even if we've all seen it is meant for you and you and you and me, but it's not significant until you are the one actually observing it, watching it, because then you do become aware, or I at least became aware, super aware of my own consciousness, okay, being reflected back to me, almost as though some energy has gone back in time to create I just don't understand I don't quite understand the creation of it all. So if you could elaborate on that at all, as far as how the consciousness is connected, or I think that's probably what I need to do some more research on, is the linear time versus no time, because supposedly everything's happening at once. We're really living all of our lifetimes at the same time. We just don't understand that concept. But I feel like I'm witnessing that, and it's hard to explain. But that's the energies I was getting this last week intensely. And it does seem like I am in communication again, but it's different this time around. It's more within than without. And it's like I can just versus them talking to me, now I can formulate a question in my mind and automatically receive an answer, almost like a oracle of some kind. And just everything has been adding up. I feel like I am putting all these puzzle pieces together. We're all contributing, our puzzle pieces to this one giant puzzle, and things have been so intense. I do feel more confident than ever that this is really happening, guys, and I can't believe it. Like, so it was pretty late that night that I was watching that video of the yogi, and it just so happened to be about, observing your own consciousness, okay? And that video, like, tripped me out. It was like the audience members were asking him the questions that I was formulating in my head, but they were asking him. It was like, it was all one in the same time. Like, it was so trippy, dude. And then the next day, like, it had kind of been a rocky roller coaster ride up to that point, and then with the energies, and then the next day I just felt like I was in total bliss, like zen, like no worries, no fear. It was a feeling I'd never felt before. I just felt so calm, and my nerves were so relieved. Like, ever since 2010, I've been sitting literally on pins and needles. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. And then once I saw that this was really happening, I finally was able to let go of all of that. And it felt freaking awesome. And now, I could tell things were wobbly this last week, but the last couple of days I have felt centered. I feel like, the purging is done. And I'm back to, quote unquote, my normal self. But they're still there. I'm still finally in tune. And they have confirmed, they just keep trying to confirm to me that I'm this May Queen, or, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, because I did make this sacrifice, or I stayed so pure. My soul stayed so pure from birth. And like, I guess you have to make it to 30 years old. I don't know, because they definitely wanted me to come forward finally. They said my return has been expected for a long time. And I'm supposed to step into my higher self. And I know this is what I was born to do. This was my life's mission. And for the short time that I have been on this planet, or for the short time I've been here this lifetime, I feel like I've lived a full life. And I'd made the most of it, with what I had to work with. And I've always felt that I could die happy. I could die at any moment and I would still feel like I died happy. Like I would still feel fulfilled. But I'm tired, and according to them, I've lived many incarnations, and I just want to go home and take as many people with as possible. And I am here for any questions. I have seen in some of the groups, some people asking, talking about lucid dreaming, having these vivid dreams, and carrying words over, from dream state to wake state. And I have had some of those experiences, and I will share those words with you in case you want to look it up. The first word I had gotten through a dream was back in 2010. And because I had said I'd taken that bottle leave, but I was a night shift caregiver, so my client slept through the nights. I didn't neglect or abandon my patient. And when I got up, when I did wake up sick, sicker than a dog, I was able to, get him out of bed, get him ready before I rushed out the door and just puked my guts out. And he did pass away May 25th, and he was from Guatemala. And when I walked into their house, I felt like I was in the presence of royalty, okay? It was just a feeling I had. I don't know, they were fancier people, but they were sweethearts. They did a lot of charity work. It was a doctor and his wife, and they did a lot of charity work back in their day. And he was way out of it. Like, he had Alzheimer's so far gone, he couldn't talk, couldn't express himself at all. And I made sure to take really good care of him. But I feel like he was a significant part. Whatever, his soul must be a significant part of it too, because of the fact that I needed to usher him in, and it wasn't until one of the words that I did get in a dream, I started to connect some dots there. But anyways, so the first word was ascension, and I had woken up in the recliner at work one morning, and it was just like ascension in the back of my mind. And prior to that, I had no idea, or I didn't know what ascension was on this level. The only concept of ascension I'd had at that point was of like a body, like physically ascending in the air. Okay, that would have been my definition of ascension. But as soon as I got home that morning, sure as shit, I looked that up, and this was while they were in communication with me. I go look up ascension, and then I find out about all this other. It only leads me to more people that are on the spiritual path, and has everything to do with what they've been communicating to me. So that was the first word, and then next time I was at home, I was in my bed. I woke up one morning and I heard the word Cassiopeia loud and clear. I had no idea what that was. I looked it up. It's a constellation. There's some story related to it about a mother and daughter. But there's got to be something to that too. So both those words took place several years ago. This past week, I've gotten 2 more words, and so the first word was Quetzalcoatl, and I haven't done any research on that figure or wasn't familiar with that name at all. Looked it up, and I find out, well, you have to look it up, okay? But it's associated with the Mayans. I just keep getting close. He's known as a creator god, a hero. He's associated with fertility, corn, wind, and the Mayans, and he was based out of Guatemala. So it had me wondering if my patient might not have been this figure, okay, incarnate. So I just know that there's something to that. And this is 400 BC, okay. And like I said, this harvest of souls or rapture or whatever happens every 26,000 years, and it's supposedly what happened to the Mayans. So do a little research on that. See if it resonates with you. And then the word that I got the other morning, I woke up and the word Agartha was fresh in my mind. And it sounded familiar. And I thought it was associated with the movie Avatar or something. Or I don't know. That's what I had assumed in my mind. And then I looked it up, and it's just another term for this inner earth, this heaven, this Shambhala, whatever you want to call it. So every little bit leads me to more research, and I find another piece to this puzzle. Okay, and it's also telling the story of who I am as well. I'm learning more about this soul that I supposedly am possessing in my vessel at this time. And somehow, I can't remember how I came across, I'll post on it later, but I did find an even more dated tale, I think, and it's associated with Quetzalcoatl, and it explains this romance of this king and queen. He has to find her. He's always looking for her, and he can wake her up. It's also like it's a tale where it's obvious that Sleeping Beauty stemmed from this probably real tale, or several Disney movies stemmed off of this tale. So I can't remember what the name of it is. I'll look it up later and let you know. But I'm thinking I am going to start posting daily, just my experiences, any messages that come through. If you have any questions, ask me. I'd be happy to answer anything. that I am able to. I am here to be a beacon of light for anybody that is struggling. I've already been through it. Um, it's going to be different for everyone. It is a personal experience for each of us. And it'll take some longer than others to work through this process. Um, I just know we're on the verge of something huge and glorious. I mean, it's like they have been waiting for someone to become self-aware, to observe your own consciousness is like the goal. Like, and once someone has done that, it's like the only option is the next step of evolution, you know? And I truly feel that's what we are about to experience. It's just all making too much sense, guys, and I love you.